Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and our guest commentator this week is a man who needs no introduction, humanitarian, author, lecturer, Houston promoter, and the dean of wrestling commentators, Mr. Paul Bosch. And we have an outstanding card for you signed by matchmaker Grizzly Smith. Mr. USA Tony Atlas is here, Louisiana heavyweight champion Hacksaw Jim Dugan, and our main event for the North American heavyweight title, Stagger Lee versus Ted DiBiase. However, we had to start. Network time coming up. Stagger Lee has not arrived. We look for him almost any time. If he's here, we'll have him down on the lower portion of the program, as I'm sure our promoter, Paul Bosch, can tell you. You've had things happen like that to you, Paul.
Well, that's why promoters get ulcers, because you make every effort to give the fans exactly what you advertise, and then there are always such extenuating circumstances, traffic, weather, such as we have here right now, and so many things can interfere with a man getting there. But I've never known a wrestler who didn't try his doggonedest to get there when he was due to be there.
Right now at the ring, we have Cowboy Bill Watts standing by with the Junkyard Dog. Let's go and listen to them.
Well, JYD, October 27th to January 24th, 90 days. It was a lifetime for me, and I know for you, I felt like I'd lost a friend. I guess if it wasn't such a unique closeness between you and Stagger Lee, it would have really been a loss for Mid-South, but it's my pleasure to welcome you back to Mid-South.
Yeah, I know it was a long time coming, like an old friend of mine used to say, it was a long time coming, but I know a change was going to come. I've been in Japan, Singapore, Hawaii, taking it easy, visiting my family, but you know, something happened. Stagger Lee haven't shown up yet.
Well, that's right. I know that he has a North American title match, but you know, I've gotten to know the guy, and he's responsible. He's defended that title, and he's never been late or anything else. I'm sure he'll show up before the evening's out. This type of weather, this time of year, planes being late, cars, you know, we just haven't heard as to why. He's apparently not even where he can call by phone, but I'm sure he'll be here. I'm more interested in you coming back. You know, whenever you're in Mid-South, you attract a lot of action. Are you in shape?
Maybe 50-50. I'm not as good a shape that I was when I left Mid-South area, but that's just to throw a few people off. You never know about the dog. I'm still nasty, even nastier than ever.
Well, I'm telling you, brother, you better be ready, because we'll join in progress in just a second here, a match where you and Big Ernie Ladd were against the Assassin and Rick Hangman Harris. 2 against 2 that ended up 2 against 4. And we can go right back into Ted DiBiase being involved, and he's the one that sent you out of here for 90 days. Let's join that match and watch right now.
Al Pernita says, give me one man from each team. There's Ted DiBiase, Bill Watts.
Boyd Pierce, I just looking at that. You better shut the doors and batten down the hatches. And I'm telling you, everything can just break loose. Look at Junkyard Dog staring at Ted DiBiase right now. DiBiase out there with a tablet in his hand. I guess he's going to scout the match. Everybody in this crowd was rocking and rolling when Junkyard Dog and Big Cat Ernie Ladd came out. But now I think they're all wondering and worried, because you know good and well that DiBiase doesn't need a tablet to scout the Junkyard Dog. He was a close friend for a couple of 3 years with him, so certainly he knows the dog's moves. DiBiase, that just forebodes a lot of evil. Dog going after the Assassin's mask. Hangman Harris coming in. Big Ernie Ladd tagged in. Eddie Robinson, the fine coach at Grambling. Wow, did you see Ernie Ladd? You could hear that clear over here, Boyd Pierce, him popping Hangman Harris. Eddie Robinson, the man that Ernie Ladd was recruited to Grambling on a basketball scholarship. Eddie Robinson said anybody that big's playing football, and Ladd was All-American, then All-Pro, Hall of Famer at San Diego, and now dominating the professional wrestling ring, a man that took 6 weeks from a knee injury. We just saw Paul Ellering last week. Wait a minute, there was a tag behind the dog, and the Assassin put something in that mask. He's trying to put the dog away. Big Cat Ernie Ladd coming in, but the dog just was headbutt by the Assassin. What's DiBiase doing? What's DiBiase doing? He's telling the dog to get up. He's taunting the dog. Ernie Ladd in there. The Assassin caught him from behind. Boyd Pierce, this is just broken down into mayhem. DiBiase is taunting the Junkyard Dog, and Dog just leveled Ted DiBiase. He just leveled Ted DiBiase. The Assassin's got some of that mask. He's going to try to put the dog away. The dog blocked it. The dog blocked it, Boyd. He just drove the assassin in. Now the dog going for the assassin's mask. DiBiase hit him with a chair. There's no doubt Big Ernie Ladd, the big cat, came over and just leveled. Here comes. That can't be the assassin. That's a grappler. The grappler. Everybody's after the dog. Everybody's after the dog at Ernie Ladd. Grappler went for the drop kick with that loaded boot. The dog hang on. Now the dog's fighting back. I don't know how he does it. You talk about heart and courage. How he could possibly fight back under these odds. But big cat Ernie Ladd in there delivering with 327 and a size 17 shoe. Junkyard Dog in there walking tall. Big Ernie Ladd walking tall. I don't even know who the legal man in the ring is. Neither does Alfred Neely. But somebody's down for the fall. And Neely's counting it. And Ladd and the Junkyard Dog win this match. 2 men against 3. 2 men against 4.
That'll bring back memories and what you left here with all that involvement.
You know, I left here with that, and I'll come back and I see the same thing over Ted. I'm trying to take notes, interfering in my matches. But like I said, I'm back now. I'm back here to stay. I'm nastier than I ever been because I got a lot of things on my mind. Not only what I had Stagger Lee and Tony Atlas come in trying to do, now I'm back myself to take care of business, Bill.
Well, you got the Rat Pack, you've got Kamala, and I know Kamala, you didn't leave here with a victory over him. That's got to bother you.
He's one of the only men right here that ever beat me outside of Ted DiBiase, but Ted is my main goal because he embarrassed me. Then Stagger Lee came in and won the North America belt, and that still leaves dogs out.
Well, it's a lot of action. 1983. The dog is back. Let's go back to Boyd Pierce and Paul Bosch.
We still haven't had any news from Stagger Lee. We'll keep you posted as we go along, and we'll be back with tag team action right after this important message.
Now it's tag team action for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. In the red corner at 250 pounds from Rome, Georgia, Marty Lundy. And his partner at 240 pounds from Houston, Texas, Tom Renesto Jr. In the blue corner at 222 pounds from Knoxville, Tennessee, Tim Horner. And his partner at 250 pounds from Topeka, Kansas, Art Cruz.
The introduction of tag team, Marty Lundy and his partner in the long tights, Tom Renesto Jr. Across the ring in the green tights. Their opponents, Tim Horner and his partner on the outside, Art Cruz. Here's a man, 34 consecutive years of microphone experience, Paul Bosch.
Yes, and the experience of watching young fellows like Tim Horner, who can come along and make all the moves and make them look just the storybook way they're supposed to. And I want to tell you, he is a fine prospect. As he throws Marty Lundin around, he emphasizes that point. Horner has a lot of that flair that comes with being confident and being young and being in top condition. Marty Lundin now back in to face what again happens to be a tough job for him because of the movements that Horner is capable of making, or the quick defense. That arm drag is well executed, and as Marty goes over, he touches the hand of Tom Renesto Jr., which leads you to speculate on the fact that there is a Tom Renesto Sr. who was a top-notch wrestler just a generation ago. And as Tom tries now to get Art Cruz into a syndrome up there, he managed to get himself just a little bit unaware of what was happening. Armbar, Art Cruz, husky individual, man with a good wrestling background, and the weight that Tim Horner wishes he had. But we can't all have everything, and some of us make up for the things we lack by improvement in other areas. That knee hit Art Cruz right in the back, and it was his own force that was going in. And Lundin right now has the best advantage of coming out on top in this tag team event. They've got him in a troublesome spot, and if Cruz can, he'd best make his way over to Tim Horner, who is pacing the ring apron and anxious and eager to get back in there, and that clothesline may help him to make up his mind that he's going to get there by the high road or the low road. Horner just can't keep still over there. I like a man like that. I like a man who wants to get in and help his partner, who's a team man. And when he's in a team match, is anxious to get in there and use the save that can tell the story. Save that time was for Art Cruz himself. He got out of the way, and when Lundy hit the canvas, there was no protection. So Tom Renesto Jr. comes in. Side headlock to hold him in place, and Art Cruz is trying to get his head out of trouble and keep his body where it'll do some good. Nice move by Cruz, and the big man executing that drop kick. And here comes electricity personified in Tim Horner. Lightning by the way he makes some of his moves. He's good. And up and down, and a tremendous crash in that ring, and as Tim Horner comes by, he starts using that body slam to good advantage. Horner has made good use of his ability to get in there, apply the crotch hold, and heist them up. Now we've got all four in the ring, and this should give Horner a chance to do his job without interference. But I think it's Cruz who lost his head a little bit there and decided he was going to do something about this because he didn't like what had happened to him. Flying body scissor. There's one, there's two, and there is three. And shades of Luthez. That body scissor brought back memories.
And the victors, Tim Horner and Art Cruz, will be back when action resumes on Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.
Boyd, we're going to be showing a match that took place in Houston, Texas, and I was there the night that it happened, and I formed some very honest but very pertinent opinions about it. I was surprised at the volcanic temper that lies underneath that mask of Wrestling Number 2. And if you can imagine a match where Wrestling 2 was disqualified, and this match against Tully Blanchard, who up until this point had always impressed me with his toughness, if you can imagine Wrestling 2 being disqualified for what he did, I'd like you to add the commentary to this match and see if yours agrees with mine.
All right, Paul, let's join that match in progress right now. Tully Blanchard now trying to keep Mr. Wrestling 2 over in the corner, a patented move that he uses in many of his matches, but the wise veteran, Wrestling 2, the man in the white mask with the black trim, comes out in the center of the ring. Side headlock now. Mr. Wrestling 2 applying the pressure now with a squeeze around the head. Pressure still being applied as Tully Blanchard holds on down to one knee for a little added leverage, trying to take away some of that pressure, but not to be done. Using the strength now, the masked man, the veteran, Mr. Wrestling 2. Tully Blanchard, former football star from San Antonio, Churchill, and West Texas State Buffaloes. But Mr. Wrestling 2, he's a professional wrestler for many, many years, and this is his game. Using his strength once again with that side headlock, the pressure still being applied. Still in command. Dropping that left shoulder, Wrestling 2 coming right back, takedown once again. Blanchard able to get on both knees. Now both men coming up to the center of the mat. And I can tell you plenty of pressure being applied there. That side headlock, tremendous man to Mr. Wrestling 2 and Tully Blanchard there. And the referee knocked out of the action. You can see as Tully Blanchard threw Wrestling 2 into the referee. Now taking advantage. There he goes. 1, 2. Third strand of rope coming down with that elbow hammering away on Mr. Wrestling 2. The referee out of the action using the elbow. Now Tully going. No, he's going for the mask. Trying to remove the mask. No one has ever been able to do so. Here's the referee warned him. And Mr. Wrestling 2, brother, you can do a lot of things to a lot of people, but one of the things you don't want to do to Wrestling 2 is touch that mask. That's his trademark. He knows who he is and doesn't care about anybody else knowing it. And inside, he likes it clean and scientific, but talking about mixing it up, you just got to dander up on Mr. Wrestling 2 because you dare not touch it. Not the mask. There he goes. In. Head first into that turnbuckle on the far side. Talk about furious. Hot and heavy inside and behind that mask. Mr. Wrestling 2 a blow into Tully Blanchard. The crimson flowing now on Blanchard as Wrestling 2 become rat-tat-tat. There goes the referee. Wrestling 2 wants one-on-one. The combatants inside the ring is the way he wants it. Tully should never have tried to remove that mask from Wrestling 2. High in the air, brings him down, and once again, Blanchard over into the far turnbuckle face first. The knee lift sends him powering out onto the floor. There's, with the referee out of the action, the second referee to the ring, Jerry Usher, coming down to check on Blanchard. But here, Wrestling 2 will do his own checking. Here he comes out and trying to be restrained by Usher. Wrestling 2, a fired-up man. Let this be a warning to anybody that's watching or any of the other wrestlers. You don't touch the mask of the masked man. There he goes, exchanging blows. Tully Blanchard and Wrestling 2. The power knee takes him down on both knees. Knee to under the chin that he's used so many, many times to put away his opponent. And another one. Blanchard down on his back, trying to regain his composure and his stature, but Wrestling 2 continues to follow him up. No referee, still in the ring, stomping away. The man in white churning inside. Something that's been instilled throughout the years. That there's the fans going completely wild here at the Sam Houston Coliseum. Wrestling 2 on the inside. On the outside, Blanchard and both referees. Tully up to the ring apron. Come on in, says Mr. Wrestling 2, waiting for him. Listen to the fans as the chant of 2, 2, 2, and Blanchard with his fist doubled up. Doesn't quite make it in because as he starts in, Wrestling 2 is ready for him. There you see Jerry Usher trying to calm things down. There'll be no calming as far as Wrestling 2. He's back widening the ropes between the first and second strand, inviting Blanchard to come back inside. Now they're both in. Wrestling 2 has Blanchard, and he rolls on the bottom strand, reaching for him fiercely, but rolling out quickly. Now following him out. Once again, trying to be restrained by Mr. Wrestling 2. Glaring at each other with the referee only standing between them. Fans are on their feet around ringside. Disqualification of Mr. Wrestling 2 results in a victory for Tully Blanchard, but it continues. Now Blanchard widening those strands of ropes, inviting Wrestling 2, and here he is. Uh-oh, Tully Blanchard trying to use a patented move of Wrestling 2 with a knee, but he couldn't do it. No one can like the master. Crimson still flowing, swinging wildly. Wrestling 2. Powerhouse right to the jaw of Tully Blanchard, following it up. Now you see Blanchard as he draped 1, 2, 3 down to the floor. The fans, the accolades, they're standing on their feet, cheering the man. They've come to love. And he's gained that respect in the ring, and he's gained the respect of Tully Blanchard, because even there comes the chair into the ring. Even though he lost the match on a disqualification, he won the war. Well, I agree with your comments that you said earlier. 100% is just something that you don't look for, but it's something that happened. We all saw it. We'll be back with more live action after this word from Mid-South Wrestling.
Well, Wrestling 2, I think Paul Bosch aptly put it, and Boyd Pierce echoed it. And anybody that's ever seen you in competition knows there's a volcano in there that really erupts when somebody messes with your mask, your identity, or insults your family.
Well, you know, I've always tried to take the match to the man. Tully was no exception. I tried to give him a good wrestling match, but he evidently felt that he could overpower me by some devious moves of his, and then to top it off, he went for my mask, which was his biggest mistake. As you well know, no one touches my mask but myself. If they do, they end up getting their teeth kicked in.
Well, that's right, and I know that some weeks back you got injured going after Kamala Akbar and his man Friday. and you thought you'd gotten to the source, but apparently you've had another threat. And would you like to elaborate?
Evidently, I thought it was all over, but I guess not. A little note here says that you're nothing without your knee. They sent me a little doll here with the leg bandaged up and everything. Well, I got news for all of them. I'm as much of a man as any man that stands on his 2 feet, whether I have a knee or not. And if you don't believe it, just try me one time. And for those out there that could find out any way, shape, or form a positive identification of who this person is sending me these things here trying to wreck my mind, I've got some bucks in my pocket. I've got some dollars right here in my pocket. I'd be more than happy to shell out right quick. Make it $1,000. I got $1,000 right here that I'll be very, very happy just to take out and hand it to the man that will bring the man to me with positive identification of whoever is sending these.
Well, I know money can't buy peace of mind, and I certainly understand your feeling that you're fed up, and I join with you. I wish that whoever's doing it would have the guts to come out in the open.
Bill, I'm up
because I
to
know
here
you're
with it.
doing
I'm
something.
sick of it.
It's almost hilarious or funny, except it's macabre and it's sinister, and we don't need that. And let's go back to Boyd Pierce and Paul Bosch.
You know, listening to Wrestling 2, you could hear that temper. But I liked the part at the end of the match where he was sitting in the ring and they literally had the winner of the match going out on a stretcher.
Well, he was stirred up in the match, and he's still stirred up, backing it up with big bucks, $1,000. Right now, we have Buddy Landell in the ring against the Louisiana heavyweight champion. Let's go for the introduction.
And now a non-title event for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. In the red corner, at 270 pounds from New York City, the Louisiana heavyweight champion, Hacksaw Duggan. In the blue corner, at 238 pounds from Richmond, Virginia, Buddy Landell.
Buddy Landell in the red, and the Louisiana heavyweight title holder, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Some call him Duggan, Paul. He spelled it with 2 G's, so either way would be proper. So for your comments, let's hear it.
Well, Duggan can say it any way he wants, and he can spell it any way he wants, because when you're that big and that tough and that aggressive, you have the right to do it, and certainly to establish your own name. Now, Duggan is trying to establish one other thing. He's been after me constantly about promoting a Brass Knucks title tournament in Houston. He wants to prove that he's the toughest man in wrestling, and he could get that opportunity, but he never lets me alone and never lets me forget it for a minute. And right now, Buddy Landell can't forget the fact that his arm is twisted up behind his back to hold a hammerlock, and the man who is above him, Hacksaw Duggan, is not averse to stepping in there and making sure that his opponent suffers injury from the application of the hold or applying a turnbuckle in the manner that he did just then. Duggan is ruthless. He is the kind of a man for whom the Brass Knucks title was invented. Bull Curry was the first man ever to win it, and that was way back in the 1960s. And Duggan here believes that he's a modern-day version of anybody who felt they were tough in any era. So Landell into the ropes, and Landell catching the back of the arm, the point of the elbow, and it looked as though it caught him just under the chin, which might have saved his teeth. And Duggan's trying to set him up, whirling slam into the ropes, and the manner in which he manhandles the 225 or 35 pounds of Buddy Landell is proof of the man-to-man strength of Hacksaw Duggan. He may not lift weights, but in wrestling, you've got to have the ability to make that strength against an individual who moves. And there goes a flying spear, and with Landell down, it is a flying spear and a pin for Hacksaw Duggan with 2 G's.
His 2 G's is right, Paul Bosch, and we'll be back after this important message from Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.
Well, Ted, I know you must be disappointed Stagger Lee has not shown up. You were scheduled to wrestle him for the North American title, and now Grizzly Smith has changed the match, and you and Matt Bourne will wrestle Don Bass and Joe Stark.
disappointed. I want to know what's going on around here, Bill Watson. I'm sure you know. I came here to wrestle Stagger Lee for the North American title. I saw the Junkyard Dog here today interviewed. Now, isn't it funny that the first time the Junkyard Dog shows his face in Mid-South again, all of a sudden Stagger Lee has disappeared. Now, if I had failed to show up here today with the North American title, I'd have already had to forfeit the title, and I've been railroaded out of here. But matchmaker Grizzly Smith has got us in a tag match. What's the deal, Bill Watts? I exposed Junkyard Dog all over Mid-South. Boyd Pierce sat at that table over there, turned his back on me in the Superdome. Paul Bosch in Houston said he didn't see what was going on, and then there was a mysterious technical difficulty. They didn't pick it up on film. Talk about cover-up. There's more cover-up going on here in Mid-South than in Watergate and Nixon.
Well, certainly I know you're upset about the match, but we did see one time when Tony Atlas was bench pressing 550, Stagger Lee and Junkyard Dog together, so I don't think your accusations have been met with undeniable proof.
I think it. Bring them out here together. Why aren't they here together? Why is it Junkyard Dog's here today and he's not? Okay,
well, maybe if you guys would give them a title match, and you'll have to take it up with Grizzly Smith, maybe Junkyard Dog and Stagger Lee would wrestle you for the Mid-South title. But that'll be up to matchmaker Grizzly Smith. Now back to Paul Bosch and Boyd Pierce.
Thank you, Bill. That was Ted DiBiase hurling his usual accusations to everybody that will listen about everyone. Right now we have the next match in the ring, so let's go for the introduction.
This event is for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. In the red corner, at 268 pounds from Vancouver, British Columbia, Kelly Kiniski. And in the blue corner, at 221 pounds from Houston, Texas, Tony Torres.
Your next event, Tony Torres in the maroon tights against the blue-clad from Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, Kelly Kiniski. Paul, you and I are very familiar with his father, Gene Kiniski.
Well, I want to tell you that Kelly Kiniski is even more familiar with the difficulties a young man has when he is caught in the shadow of a more famous father. And right now, I sense that Kelly Kiniski is emerging from that shadow. He is probably the most greatly improved wrestler I've seen over the past few months. Reason? He's discovering Kelly Kiniski. He's getting a Kelly Kiniski style in there instead of a Gene Kiniski style. And no matter what happens, if Kelly can assert himself in the manner in which he has learned to do and the instinct that he no doubt possesses, we're going to hear a lot from that young man. But right now, Tony Torres is making it extremely difficult to point out the good points of Kelly Kiniski because he is putting his best effort forward. A quick switch, hip lock, and there come the ever-ready feet of Kiniski. Kiniski has a habit of leading with that arm, and the same arm all the time. And Tony Torres, watching that arm carefully, is timing his response to Kiniski's rush so that he is able to use Kiniski's force to throw him over. But these are mistakes that many, many young people in the wrestling game make, and that can be corrected. That's not a basic flaw, but it sure can make it tough for you when you're in there with a guy who notices it. A crotch hold, a slam, and that backbreaker was applied on the front of Tony Torres' body. It's a hold we usually call a backbreaker, whether it's on the back or not, but he bounced him on his ribs that time, and that can be equally as effective, maybe more effective. And Kiniski is enjoying right now his moment of superiority in that ring as he bears down on Tony Torres and tries to at least to knock the breath out of him, make it difficult to breathe, and then to clamp on this hold, which further restricts the flow of oxygen, but is not a stranglehold. Anytime you see a chin in crook of a man's arm, you know that it's not a stranglehold, but it sure can have the effect of one. Kelly Kiniski and that big hulk of a man coming up there with a drop kick and catching the smaller Tony Torres. Torres is in that area where he could wrestle in the junior heavyweight class. He could wrestle in the heavyweight class, and this is probably the most difficult physical boundary to be encircled by because the It's better to be a full-fledged heavyweight and have the weight for it, or a full-fledged junior heavyweight and wrestle only people your own size. Back body drop, and he dropped him right smack on his neck, and Tony's in trouble. He is in bad trouble. The match goes to the son of the former world's champion, Gene Kiniski, Kelly Kiniski.
Who's proven he's a rising young star from north of the border of Canada. We'll be back with the tag team action after this word from Mid-South Wrestling.
This is a non-title tag team event for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. In the red corner, the Mid-South Tag Team Champions. At 268 pounds from Omaha, Nebraska, Ted DiBiase. And his partner at 240 pounds from Atlanta, Georgia, Matt Bourne. In the blue corner at 270 pounds from Pampa, Texas, Don Bass. And his partner at 222 pounds from Jonesboro, Arkansas, Joe Stark.
Stagger Lee has not made it due to conditions I'm sure that's beyond his control, because he's proved to be a man of his word. Therefore, it's tag team match, Ted DiBiase and Matt Bourne, the Mid-South Tag Team title holders, against Joe Stark and Don Bass, and Stark in the ring against Bourne. Here's Paul Bosch.
With Bourne on top, and Bourne trying to destroy the balance of Joe Stark and to stay behind him and make Stark fight to get to his feet. That's the way you tire a man out. That's the way you prove to him, or try to prove to him, that you are a better wrestler than he is, by making yourself hard to find and hard to see. But nobody ever accused Matt Bourne of being easy to see. You look at him and you're looking at trouble. So in comes Ted DiBiase, and Joe Stark is having his problems. Knee almost cuts him in half, and this is a trademark that Ted DiBiase has thrown with considerable skill. The crotch hold, the lift. We have had an inordinate amount of slamming on that mat tonight, and no hold in wrestling will take the fight out of you quicker than being bounced on the canvas and driven down into it by the strength of a man. Now, speaking of weight, and we were, if Ted DiBiase is going to continue to pick them up and slam them or cut them in half, he'll have his troubles with Don Bass. Bass is one of those throwbacks to the old-time physique of the strong man, and right now he is trying to demonstrate a combination of the two. The strongman build and the fleet of foot driving tackler, and you just don't do it. Ted DiBiase knew it. Don Bass is going to find it out. There's Matt Bourne looking to drop in there with his knee and find the jaw of Don Bass. Bourne on top. There's one. There's two. And the rotund form of Don Bass helped him that time to lift up and to throw away. But in comes DiBiase, and this shows that the team of Bourne and DiBiase is extremely dangerous. Neither one is going to stay in there just to cop the glory. They're going to keep switching and keep a fresh man in there, and this is what makes a successful team. He just swung that arm around and took him off his feet with a clobber, and just a little bit too confident, a little too cocky, a little too arrogant, or he might have gotten a pin. And here is the power slam, a drive into the mat with all of Ted DiBiase's weight on top. Don Bass is pinned, and the team of Bourne and DiBiase wins.
And we'll be back with Mr. USA Tony Atlas in action following this important message.
This event is for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 290 pounds from Clinton, Iowa, Tug Taylor.
Rick Ferreira called for the bell before the introduction. Tug Taylor in the black tights against Mr. USA from Roanoke, Virginia, Tony Atlas. We have with us now as our guest commentator for this match, the top-rated Latin star from Mexico, Chavo Guerrero. Chava, tell us what you see as action unfurls in the ring, please.
Well, Tug Taylor tried to get the jump on Tony Atlas. He knows that a victory on television against a superstar like Tony Atlas would get him a chance at a better bookings, you know, at better matches. So he's trying to get the jump on Tony, but Tony is a well-experienced wrestler. He's when I say experienced, I'm talking about top experience. He's been main event everywhere in the world. You know, this man started, you don't get a body like that overnight. We're at the restaurant the other day, and this girl asked Tony how long it took him to get that body. And it was funny to me because he made a joke out of it. He said 30 days. You know, that takes years. He started weightlifting at the age of 15 years old, you know, and he got into some amateur wrestling, and he's done a very, very successful professional career. He's one of the few bodybuilders that can get into professional wrestling and make a go at it. And in both things, you know, he was successful as a bodybuilder and as a professional wrestler, so he's got two assets to his credit now.
Right, and talking about a successful career, you have had one, and if we have time after this match, before our television time is over, I have some very important questions that I want to go over between you and I. But right now, the match in the ring.
Well, I think what Tuck Taylor's going to have to do here, you see, he's going to have to get Tony to wrestle his type of match. So far, Tony is controlling the match, and this is not to Tuck Taylor's advantage. Because Tony, like I said, as experienced as he is, you've got to throw him off. And he's not going to do it by trying to wrestle Tony's match, trying to out-muscle him, and that's what he's trying to do. Although Tuck Taylor is a very, very strong man. And, you know, he wrestled, I think he was third in the Olympic trials, the Greco-Roman style, which is a completely... it's from the waist up. You can't use the legs. But anyway, this is different. This is professional. And here you've got to go Greco-Roman, amateur, boxing, judo. You got to know everything. You see there, Tony, he's trying to out-muscle Tony, and there's no way he's going to do that. Tony benching 550. You people saw it right here on television. And it's unbelievable, a man that can bench this much and have so much ability as a wrestler. Now he's got a sleeper hold on Tuck Taylor. Referee checking to see if it's a chokehold. But I think he's getting out there. This is one of Tony's favorite holds here. With that strength he's got on his, you know, the thing about the sleeper, the more you fight, the stronger you can get that grip on there. And that might be it for Tuck Taylor. We'll see right now. Referee checking to see what Tuck Taylor's reactions are. Tony holding on to that sleeper hold.
And a lot of times in a big man, Chavo, you see in the ring there a lot of hulk and a lot of bulk. But in Tuck Taylor, there's a lot of power in that big body.
Yes, he's a very, very strong man. Like I said, he was a wrestler. And like Paul Bosch said, well, that's it.
But the power went down to Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. So that gives us some time left over, Chavo. And one of the questions I want to ask you, gorgeous Gino Hernandez came on the scene, and I know that you yourself have a personal score to settle with Gino Hernandez, but he came to the Mid-South area, you came to the Mid-South area, and I know he said that he had ran you out of Texas and made those accusations, but I personally know that you've challenged gorgeous Gino Hernandez not only in Texas, but in Arkansas, in Mississippi, in Oklahoma, in Louisiana. So I know you must have feelings about it.
You know, this was my main reason for coming to Mid-South. He offended me, he insulted me, not only myself, but the Guerrero name. You know, we come from a very strong wrestling family, and there was even a family meeting there, and I said, Dad, I'll go take care of it. And the man, you know, I was mixed. He didn't show up to any of these chicken matches because I knew it had to come down to this to see if he was really, to find out, to show you people, to show myself. You know, he even got me to the point where I had lost confidence in myself. He hurt me as a man and my career, but most of all, my integrity as a wrestler was at jeopardy. I had to come down and take care of it. The man didn't show up, so this proves beyond a doubt. You know, I kind of felt bad because I really trained for this match, because I said if I'm going to let a man like this take me down, it's not going to be easy. I'm going to go down fighting. But he didn't show up, but that's over with. I have a man to contend with, which is twice as tough, twice as strong, and twice as wrestlers, and I got something over him. I beat him on TV, and I know he's after me, and I'm talking about Hacksaw Duggan.
That's right, and next week, matchmaker Grizzly Smith says he'll have Stagger Lee against Ted DiBiase. You'll be against a member of the Rat Pack, Matt Bourne. Till then, Boyd Pierce saying goodbye, everybody, from Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. Hello, everybody. everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and a lot of exciting action signed by matchmaker Grizzly Smith. It'll be headlined by a North American Heavyweight Championship match as Stagger Lee defends his coveted title and belts against the challenge of Ted DiBiase. Mr. USA, Tony Atlas from Roanoke, Virginia is here. Also, Chavo Guerrero, the fine Latin star from Mexico, takes on a rugged Matt Bourne. It all adds up to 60 minutes of wrestling excitement. The man to tell you about it, 34 consecutive years as commentator for Houston Wrestling, also the top promoter in professional mat sport of wrestling. It's Mr. Paul Bosch. Paul, welcome.
Boyd, thank you. I still have trouble getting this thing over my cauliflower ears. We're going to have a lot of good action tonight, and I think we better get right down to it.
The first event is in the ring, so let's go for the introduction.
This event is for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. In the red corner, at 240 pounds, from Houston, Texas, Tom Renesto Jr. And in the blue corner, at 222 pounds, from Knoxville, Tennessee, Tim Horner.
And the cheers for Tim Horner, dressed in green against the long black tights clad of Tom Renesto Jr. Rick Ferrara. The referee called for the bell. Here's Paul Bosch.
Yes, and there is Tim Horner, a young man who is gaining a lot of attention and earning it the old-fashioned way, I may say, by sweat and by muscle and by putting something into every minute he spends in that ring. As you notice there, that arm drag as he tossed Tom Renesto over, he turned it quickly into an arm bar, not a waste of motion. And this is the sign of a man who spends much time in the gymnasium, much time on fundamentals, and then knows enough to apply them when he gets into competition. Tom Renesto looking to use the added weight that he has, and I wonder about Tim Horner going into that side headlock. It looked to me like he was setting him up for it perfectly. The arm drag puts Tom Renesto again underneath, and that same arm bar that takes that arm, reacts against the elbow and the shoulder at the same time. Manner in which he's holding it now, a false move by Tom Renesto, even though the hold was on his arm. If he made the move, he could have broken his arm. Quick move by Tim Horner. Look at that young man, and you talk about dexterity and a quick switch, and he swings over to get the further arm and to roll him down to the canvas. There was a succession of moves that took a lot of following, took a lot of doing too, I don't mind telling you. And Horner is using the approach that if he can keep Tom Renesto busy enough, wondering where the next attack is going to take place, then he's going to get what he wants. Whether he makes a feint, 2 feints, or 3 feints at something he doesn't want, he comes up with what he can use, and in this case, following up on that arm hold, and in using the arm hold to add to what he has already done to it. But Tom Renesto hadn't hit him in the jaw before, and he's trying to prove that doing something the first time is effective too. So Renesto tries now to pound Tim Horner down onto that top rope, tries to lay it in there where he's going to suffer from the contact with the rope as well as the contact with what appears to be a blow of the fist in that rabbit punch attack. Now Horner's in trouble. He is outweighed. He's got to come up with something that keeps Tom Renesto from using the full effects of his weight. And Renesto is well aware of it. A good small man can beat a good big man under some conditions. But if he takes too much punishment, he's going to find that he has left his fight up in the dressing room. Hard landing. And Renesto is smart enough and quick enough to get on top, but he's not powerful enough to be able to hold Tim Horner down to the canvas for the count of 3. That'll help Horner's cause. A well-placed foot can certainly offset a great deal of science and a great deal of rough stuff. Bouncing across the ring is Tom Renesto, and probably now wondering exactly what his father would have told him to do under these conditions, since his father was a well-known heavyweight wrestler less than a generation ago. Top man, Tim Horner, there's two. And there was close, I don't mind telling you, and flying body scissor, and again, he looks like Luthez going through the air, hit him high, hold him tight, and pin him down to the canvas, and Horner did it.
And Tim Horner gains a victory in the opening event. We'll be back after this important message.
Boyd, we have a film clip from Houston, Texas, in which General Akbar's mighty man Kamala completely pulverized the great Canadian heavyweight Mike Sharp. I want the viewers at Mid-South area to see the relentless force, the burning desire to excel that this man has within himself. Let's see it.
All right, let's watch the match that General Skandar Akbar is talking about right now.
Never before in my career as a wrestler and now the world's greatest wrestling manager have I ever been associated with the likes of Kamala. Such power and devastation, 360 pounds. Now you see him in the ring with all of the regalia, the earrings, the mask, the spear. Friday accompanying Kamala into the squared circle, ready to do battle. He'll be going up against Mike Sharp, who is a tremendous man himself. Now, I've felt the wrath of Mike Sharp. I know how powerful this Canadian heavyweight is. But I want the viewers in television land to see just exactly what a tremendous and relentless pursuit that Kamala has. Coming from the Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, Texas, there you see Mike Sharp. In just a few moments, this match will get underway. You see referee Jerry Usher giving instructions to Mike Sharp. Now, Friday, getting the great Ugandan warrior ready for action. As I've said before, I have never, and I've had a lot of great talent in the general stable, but I have never seen anything like Kamala. Across the country, I've been getting the cards and letters and telephone calls and congratulating me on my association with Kamala. There he goes, as you see. As I've told you before, the relentless pursuit, those chops to the head of Mike Sharp. Ooh, there is another one that has to sting. See big Mike Sharp going down, down, down. Once Kamala starts, he never lets Mike Sharp out of the ring at that point. Ooh, there goes the ceremony dance. Out of the ring. Another chop outside. Boom. Mike Sharp goes down, as you can see. It's not easy to restrain a man like Kamala. I have communication with a man, but however, this man is almost uncontrollable. Stalking Mike Sharp now. Sharp up on the apron, back into the ring. Ooh, another one to the head. Now these are just not ordinary chops that Kamala throws. These are devastating chops. I have never seen anything from the Orient, from wherever, that can compare with Kamala. Mike Sharp with a nice move, a drop kick. Now notice all the power that Mike Sharp had with that drop kick. He did not, I repeat, Kamala did not go off his feet. Now, one at this point would have to admire Mike Sharp for being game. However, perhaps you would say he is willing but very weary at this point. Kamala, the Ugandan warrior, pounding at the head of big Mike Sharp. The general's man, Kamala. When this man's campaign is over, if ever, he will rewrite the wrestling record books. I know of no one, I repeat, no one in this country, perhaps across the world, that can compare with this man. Now you see the crimson-stained face of Mike Sharp. And that's all it takes. When Kamala smells that crimson-stained face, he goes after Mike Sharp. Just relentless, never letting up, never letting up. There he's got Sharp across the top rope. Mike Sharp still in it, willing, but as I've said, very, very weary, staggering. Kamala knows, he smells victory. He knows enough to know that he's got his man exactly where he wants him. Sharp throwing wildly, almost catching the referee on that wild shot. Oh, just look at Kamala, never letting up. The agility of this man is unbelievable. 360 pounds, he moves like a lightweight, reminding one of a panther moving through the jungle. Once again, catching Mike Sharp again with a chop coming across the ropes. Oh, there he goes. The power in this individual's hand is unbelievable. Mike Sharp down. This has to be somewhat of a matter of revenge for the general, as you Mid-South television viewers can remember a while back that Mike Sharp illegally put the general in a pile driver, which I haven't forgotten. This is somewhat of a, as I've said, a revenge for the general. Oh, and you wonder how Mike Sharp can take the punishment that he's taking right now from the Ugandan heavyweight. Kamala just keeps coming, just keeps coming. Jerry Usher, the referee, probably never in his career has he ever officiated a match with such a savage as Kamala. Kamala stalking around the ring, knowing that victory is near. Again to the head. Mike Sharp's going to have one big, powerful headache. This match is over. Sharp barely able to stand. Kamala ripping away at the wound. Kamala, a household word. People all across the land are talking about this man. Never before has a wrestler caused the controversy, has wreaked havoc in an area like Kamala has. Now Kamala has Mike Sharp down on the apron, the bottom rope. Tasting the crimson stain. Kamala stalking around the ring. He's got Mike Sharp hit. Another one to the head. How can Mike Sharp stand the punishment? Kamala, again, just relentless, never letting up. When you step into the square circle with Kamala, you've got to pay the price. The mighty Ugandan. The general went to great expense to lease the services of this powerful heavyweight. Oh, Mike Sharp down again. Perpetual motion, agility. That's Kamala. Strength, power, Mike Sharp down once again. Flat. Now Kamala picks up Mike Sharp. As I've said, one of the strongest wrestlers in the business. A body slam. Now, this is no ordinary splash. I repeat, this is no ordinary splash. This is the trademark of Kamala. He turns his opponents down, face down, and this should be it. This is it. 1, 2, 3. The mighty Kamala. And have you seen a powerful man like Mike Sharp being pulverized by Kamala?
There you have it, Boyd. The Painted Warrior chalks up another one. I have never been associated with such a devastating individual as the great Kamala, the Ugandan warrior.
I'll have to agree with you on that, Skandar Akbar. And we have coming up next the North American Heavyweight Championship, Stagger Lee versus Ted DiBiase, right after this message from Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.
And now a title match for the North American Heavyweight Championship. This event is for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 268 pounds, from Omaha, Nebraska, former North American Heavyweight Champion, Ted DiBiase. And it seems that Ted DiBiase has a couple of seconds in the ring with him.
Stagger Lee isn't here. Stagger Lee hasn't showed up yet, but I've got someone else that wants to challenge Ted DiBiase, has challenged Ted DiBiase in a Come As You Are match.
Well, you heard that. Stagger Lee has not made it to the arena.
Well, who is it? Oh, no! Oh, no! I'm not wrestling him. I signed to wrestle Stagger Lee. They can't do this to me. This is the second time they tried to do this to me. They tried to do this to me in New Orleans and attacked me.
Well, here it is. The Junkyard Dog in a Come As You Are.
Well, let's just settle right down to this, because Junkyard Dog, making his first appearance here in a long while, more than 90 days, is suddenly besieged by the entire Rack Pat as he fights off Ted DiBiase, Duggan, and Matt Bourne. And here comes Tony Atlas. Here comes number 2, Mr. Wrestling number 2. And now suddenly we've got a 6-man gang war going as Duggan gets out of the ring, and there goes DiBiase, and there goes Bourne, and up in the ring, displaying his ability for the first time in more than 90 days, is Junkyard Dog, whose friend Stagger Lee failed to come into the arena tonight for whatever reason. We are not certain. But Junkyard Dog said, that man has done enough for me, I'll do something for him. And he offered to take the place of Stagger Lee. So suddenly we have Junkyard Dog returning to the mat wars, and that means excitement.
That's excitement, Paul. And while we try to restore order here, we'll be back with more action. There'll be standby matches after this word from Mid-South Wrestling.
This event is for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 270 pounds from Pampa, Texas, Don Bass. And in the blue corner at 252 pounds from Roanoke, Virginia, Mr. USA Tony Atlas.
Don Bass against Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Rick Pereira called for the bell, and talk about settling down, Paul Bosch. These fans are stirred up as nobody but Junkyard Dog can stir them up.
And Tony Atlas is another crowd stirrer, and in this particular case, he is being stirred as Don Bass questions the effectiveness of Tony's muscles and tries to prove that the rotund build has more power than the tremendously expensive musculature of Tony Atlas. Takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of money to be able to put that kind of muscle onto a body, and as he manhandles Don Bass, he proves that his theory could be the best after all. So Tony Atlas, certainly one of the prime favorites of all the Mid-South area, from Houston, Texas to New Orleans and up and down Louisiana into Oklahoma and Arkansas and Mississippi. Tony Atlas is a favorite, but right now, as he has to prove it again, and you've got to prove it every time you step in that ring. You've got to be in top shape, and if you're going to be a top star, you have got to let these fans and your opponents know it. And Tony, with that high-flying drop kick of his, shows that muscles have utility and purpose, and as he gets, ooh, a flying cloud as he drops on Don Bass to squeeze him into that canvas and give Tony Atlas another win.
And we'll have tag team action coming up following this word.
It's tag team action now for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 268 pounds from Vancouver, British Columbia, Kelly Kiniski. And his partner at 250 pounds from Rome, Georgia, Marty Lundy. In the blue corner at 238 pounds from Richmond, Virginia, Buddy Landell. And his partner at 221 pounds from Houston, Texas, Tony Torres.
Kelly Kiniski and Marty Lundy pairing up against Buddy Landell and Tony Torres. Jerry Usher, the referee. Paul Bosch, this is a standby match. We have time. We have lots of more excitement coming up. Chavo Guerrero taking on Matt Bourne, and then Mr. Wrestling 2 is also here as time permits.
But the one we settle down to right now, Boyd Pierce, is the one that puts Buddy Landell in that ring to take a side headlock on Marty Lundy. And as Buddy puts the squeeze on it, this young man who has a lot of promise and a lot of latent ability is going to get an opportunity to bring some of that to the surface. He's going to have to in order to stay in there against Lundy and Kiniski. Kiniski, the son of the former world champ. Oh, he stepped right on his nose with a vengeance. He came down and planted that foot right on the forehead and the nose. And the foot is big enough to have covered a lot of territory of Marty Lundy. And Marty steps out of that ring and he's having problems. So is Kelly Kiniski as Buddy Landell races across that ring to try to catch him unawares. He didn't. The top rising young star in the game right now is Kelly Kiniski. Rough, yes, he learned that at home. He learned it from his father. That's how his father won the world's heavyweight title, how he stayed the world's heavyweight champion for 4 years, how he was one of Canada's top athletes. And young Kelly Kiniski, now shining his own light instead of standing in the shadow of a former champion, intends to change his style completely and make it doubly effective against people like Buddy Landell or anybody else. So Marty Lundy, as he gets in there with that reverse chin lock, now tries to set Buddy up for problems, and neat move. Now that's a difficult move to make, and he did it well. And he knew why he did it. He got across that ring and touched the hand of his partner, and Tony Torres, and now Torres stepped right into a cauldron. He has both Kiniski and Lundy ready for him, and oh, that was a hard slam. And of course, the effectiveness of slams can't be doubted. They take it from you physically, and if a man can just follow up the advantage, he can get the pin from a body slam and do it effectively. Reverse chin lock. Kelly Kiniski pouring it to Tony Torres, and Torres getting in that position. This is not a chokehold. Not that Kelly Kiniski wouldn't use a strangle if it was to his advantage, but this is not a chokehold. The man is holding the chin in the crook of his arm, and this just negates the possibility of using it. Crotch hold again, and slam. And Marty Lundy, top man, there's one, there's two. Tony Torres underneath needs to get across to the other side of that ring and to touch hands with his partner. On the outside of the ring, Buddy Landell is anxious, eager to get in, and Torres gets pounced unmercifully there. He has taken a lot of punishment on the back. This shakes the kidneys. This drives the wind right out of you and just racks you from top to bottom. Kiniski, again, using some of the Kiniski style, the knock 'em dead style of his father and of Kelly. Let's just put Kelly where it belongs. Let's just say this is Kelly's style, because he is not copying anybody. He's using what comes by instinct, and most wrestlers who wrestle rough are of that nature, and that's why they do it. Everybody in the world is not the shining hero. There are other people who get a lot of perverse pleasure out of being rough, rugged, tough, mean, if you will. All of us have known mean people since the time we were kids. Well, here we have the wrestlers who exemplify that part of our life most assuredly. So Tony's in trouble. He's in bad trouble. He hasn't gotten over to his corner. As a matter of fact, he hasn't gotten out of the clutches of either Marty or Kelly, and as he is piled up in the corner, Kelly lays those hard forearm blows in there. When you hit, there it is, a nice try at a save by Buddy Landell. When you hit with a forearm, you don't have to worry about breaking a bone. That's why it's the favorite blow of wrestlers. The other is that it's legal. Fist blows are declared to be illegal, but are not often penalized. A slash across the throat. There's a count, and Tony Torres just barely makes it up. And he did touch. And here comes Landell over that top rope, and there was quite a maneuver. Say, he flies those feet around well. And a quick touch, and Tony Torres was begging to get in there, and the crowd's begging Buddy Landell to stay in that ring. And now Tony is probably wondering why he got back in there so quickly. The touch by Landell was at Tony's insistence, and there's a back body drop, and there is a wrap up as he pulls that leg up for a cradle hold and glues Tony Torres down to the canvas. So Tony made the call at the wrong time. He got back in that ring when he should have been on the outside, Boyd.
And a victory for Kelly Kiniski and his partner Marty Lundy. We'll be back. Chavo Guerrero versus Matt Bourne after this message from Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.
This event is for one fall.
Before you introduce this next match, I got something to say. I'm going to get to the bottom of this Junkyard Dog Stagger Lee thing once and for all. Now, this is 2 times they've tried to railroad me. 2 times I was supposed to wrestle for the North American title against Stagger Lee. 1 week he doesn't show up. The first week that Junkyard Dog shows his face. And the next week, he doesn't show up tonight. And here comes the Junkyard Dog again. It's very simple. Junkyard Dog, Stagger Lee, Junkyard Dog. They're both the same person. Now I'm taking my lawyers, and I'm going to the president of Mid-South, Charlie Lay, to matchmaker Grizzly Smith, and I'm going to get something done. I want a match with Stagger Lee or the North American title around my waist next week. If it had been anybody else, he'd have had to forfeit the match and give me the title, and something's going to be done. You don't have to worry about this snap because I'm going to take care of him.
Well, time will tell. This event is for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 240 pounds from Atlanta, Georgia, Matt Bourne. And in the blue corner at 235 pounds from Mexico City, Chavo Guerrero.
The introduction now, as Rick Pereira calls for the bell. Matt Bourne from Atlanta against the Latin star from Mexico, Chavo Guerrero. Paul?
So Chavo Guerrero meets a man whom he can look straight in the eye, and here are 2 men about the same weight, about the same experience, and with inclinations to wrestle differently, but they both know wrestling well. Matt Bourne, for all of the fact that he'd rather get in there and kick somebody in the teeth, is a man who has been well schooled by his father, Tony Bourne. And just look at Chavo Guerrero and you find another second generation. His dad, Gory Guerrero, was light heavyweight champion of the world and a great star. Chavo has won the junior heavyweight title and equally great. Flying mare now puts Chavo Guerrero in the driver's seat, and as he gets that knee in behind the neck and manages to bend the axis of the neck, he's got Matt Bourne where he can deal some punishment. The knee is the answer, but as Bourne moves away from it, he is getting to a better position to defend himself and to go on the offensive. Bourne with his back to the ropes, and Guerrero catches a wallop over the back of the referee. And now that he has Chavo Guerrero in some trouble, there's a quick move by Chavo Guerrero. He just went up with the pull that time, and as he comes in there, makes a dive for the legs of Matt Bourne. There is an impasse for a moment, and both of them looking for the answer to get out. And again, the wrestling skills of each man come through the roughhouse wrestling that is mixed in between. Slam, and there goes Bourne, who likes to drop on his opponent and didn't do it that time. It's been responsible for a lot of bad elbows among wrestlers. And there was a great move by Chavo Guerrero. As Matt Bourne was rolling, he just bounced on that foot and followed him, and it was quick thinking and good balance. Flying feet and beautifully placed. Chavo on top, but could have a fall. Bourne sensed the danger there as those shoulders hit the canvas and Chavo's weight come in on top of him. Bourne, southpaw, and I might say southpaw like his old man because I've got bruises on my head that came because I didn't remember that Tony Bourne at one time was a southpaw and could deal the same kind of blow. So Chavo catches it, and now as Matt Bourne just planted that set of knuckles in between the eyes of Chavo Guerrero, he just made him ripe for that body slam. Here's Tony, or rather Matt, looking to splash his opponent right through the canvas. Top man is Matt Bourne, could have a fall, but we didn't. Matt in behind. Matt takes a reverse chin lock. He wants to hold him, keep him down on the canvas. He wants to lean his weight on him. He wants to pull that jaw in there. He wants to bend forward, make it tough for Chavo to breathe, and Chavo, of course, is fighting against those things happening. And that elbow right looking for the solar plexus could do it. Measured blow with a forearm, the original wrestling wallop, and it is as strong today when it's properly used as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. Caught him in the midsection, caught him hard in the midsection, and now it's the mark of the boot of Bourne that can be seen on Chavo Guerrero's head to match the one that was given to Matt Bourne. Chavo Guerrero looking at that midsection, and he knows if he can pepper it enough, he gets the head, which is what happened here. Tough give and take. He's looking now for a suplex hold, and up and down, backwards he goes, and a hard crashing landing, but you got to hold him. And sometimes that's the toughest 3 seconds in the world. The 3 seconds you spend just trying to glue a man down to the canvas, no matter what hold you're employing to accomplish it. Something about having a man having his shoulders down on the canvas. Hard miss. Getting both those shoulders down on the canvas seems to inspire the fight in everybody if they are born to be wrestlers. That signals to them what to do, how to do it, and they better do it fast. And there's the referee, got hit right square in the face with a flying leg. And here is Matt Bourne trying to set up his opposition with a full Nelson, working hard on it to bend that chin. Here comes the spearman, and it was the feet of Chavo Guerrero that caught Hacksaw Duggan as he was going through the air and threw him right into Matt Bourne. And Chavo Guerrero came to life. He used his feet in a tremendously accurate manner and a bit of instinctive coordination that sent Hacksaw Duggan head first into his opponent. Here's Tony Atlas, and Atlas is coming in here to get him. We've got the referee still out on the floor, and there is a high body slam, and now they're trying to set up Hacksaw Duggan into the ropes. A double back body drop, and off onto the floor goes Hacksaw Duggan, who come in there to do his damage and almost succeeded. Matt Bourne is down on the floor, on the cold concrete floor, leaning up against the ring, but the winner on a disqualification is Chavo Guerrero, and Tony Bourne can surely take credit for a save and an assist.
Exactly, and we'll still have time remaining. We'll have a tag team match coming up. Mr. Wrestling 2 will be one of the participants right after this word from Mid-South Wrestling.
It's tag team action now for one fall or remaining television time. In the red corner at 290 pounds, from Clinton, Iowa, Tug Taylor. And his partner at 222 pounds from Jonesboro, Arkansas, Joe Stark. In the blue corner at 236 pounds from Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Wrestling 2. And his partner at 250 pounds from Topeka, Kansas, Art Cruz.
Tag team action now is Mr. Wrestling 2, the veteran who keeps racking up victory after victory. His partner, Art Cruz from Topeka, Kansas. Paul Bosch having been trained by the veteran Ronnie Etchison, and they're going in against the twosome of Joe Stark and Tug Taylor. Taylor being the larger of the two. In the ring now is Stark and Art Cruz. Here's Paul.
So that's Art Cruz bouncing across the ring, 250 pounds of him, and as he takes after Joe Stark, he shows that Ronnie Etchison has indeed done his job well in training this man to wrestle. Boyd, I wrestled Ronnie Etchison in the most unusual place. In 1944, we were on our way to Europe. We were on a troop transport, and I wrestled him for the entertainment of 7,500 troops on board the troop transport. So I know his mentor well.
Tremendous.
So in comes wrestling number 2. Wrestling number 2 takes a side headlock as his favorite weapon, and he often does this. This is something he likes to apply, but he has a unique style and isn't addicted to single hold attacks. Again, the head, the headlock, and the hip all seem fused as he puts them into motion, which is the best thing that Mr. Wrestling 2 has going for him.
Oh,
Here he is now.
The big man of the team coming in now, Tug Taylor, but nothing in comparison to next week here on Mid-South Wrestling. 7'4", 485 pound, the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, will be here. I know the fans will be looking forward to next week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling.
Well, few people compare with him, but you can say that Kamala compares with Andre the Giant. He may not be quite as big, but big is just a matter of comparison after all. Side headlock again as the masked Mr. Wrestling 2 manages to take the rotund Tug Taylor down to the canvas. Here is Cruz coming in, and Cruz doesn't suffer from any compulsion not to move into his opponent. He, with that 250 pounds of his, he can do it well. That was a driving knee, and Taylor, who is, if he was as good all the time as he is sometimes, he'd be a pretty tough individual. But his problem is in maintaining a level that is high enough to compete on an even basis with the top-notch stars. To be top-notch, you've got to be good all the time. And as Cruz is roughed up, there is Tug Taylor, and if you had him land on you, you'd have problems too. So Cruz wants to touch, Cruz didn't. And Joe Stark on the outside wants to get in that ring. He wants a piece of Cruz with a little help from Tug Taylor. Wrestling number 2, still in the throes of trying to find out who has been bugging him by desecrating his masks. Now we've got both of them crawling in there to stop him.
Also, Paul, we just have 1 minute remaining for our time on television, 60 seconds. The action continues. I know each team would like to rack up a victory.
But I doubt very seriously if they know exactly the time. If 2 knew it, he'd be in that ring right now trying to take over and execute something for which he is famous, and that is a fast pin. And he's a man who can do it. And here he now gets furious, moving in on Joe Stark and wailing away at him as he belts him down in a rabbit punch, setting him up now, driving a blow into the stomach. He tries to get him into a position so that when he uses that dynamite-laden knee lift, he can do more with it. And there was a top body press, a pin, and through the ropes goes Tug Taylor. He's the guy who got the dynamite from the
Our time is all gone. They gained the victory. So for our guest commentator, Paul Bosch, I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, saying thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.